Good evening, everybody. There's just a couple more people kind of filtering in. We'll give them a couple of minutes to sit down, and then we'll start talking, the presentation. I'll just kind of introduce myself. My name is Susan. Oh boy, is that my phone? Excuse me. I thought it wasn't mine. I had mine turned off. So sorry to do that, panic. Where was I? Okay, my name is Susan Moylan. I don't know if you know me or not, but I am the assessor over at Main Township, which is a good neighbor to the Sabeel, and they're good neighbors to us. We're about a block and a half away. We have a lot of programs. Our head of our mainstreamer program is here tonight, and she's been passing out some literature about her department. And she was instrumental in getting this together with our department, the assessor's department in Main Township. This week, we just finished appeals with the Cook County Board of Review. Whew, done with that. We also, we're doing exemptions, a lot of new senior exemptions. I guess we're all kind of getting a little bit older, but we deserve them. So I think we're about ready to start, instead of me just talking, okay? So I want to thank an important neighbor of ours to let us use their beautiful facility. And I would like to introduce Dr. Mohammed Chowdhury. He's a Sabeel host, the CEO and president of the Islamic Food Nutritional Council of America. If you would be so kind, sir, to come up and just say a word or two.
Thank you very much. Greetings to you all. Assalamu alaikum. We really excited to see you here, room full of good people. We purchased this building almost 6 years ago, and we did not know we had to get a permit to get into the building. We said this was a Jewish synagogue, so we bought it. We just moved in, and suddenly an inspector came in. What are you doing here? I said, we bought the building. Where's the permit? I said, no, we don't know what permit is. So we were kicked out of here. So since we were kicked out, I said, well, let's then remodel it. So next 3 years, we spent remodeling this building. So we wanted to make this place not only for my community, my Pakistani community or my Muslim community, we want to make this place a community center for everybody, okay? And right before COVID, we were having action. We were having some functions here, not as big as tonight's. And some of the people who used to be members of the synagogue came here to attend. And they were so appreciative of it, because when the Jewish community decreased in numbers from here, they started moving up north. And the building was pretty much unoccupied. So we're keeping in the same concept and make it a broader, so not just a Muslim community center, it's for all. And we appreciate Main Township and also Cook County for making this evening viable and productive. And this program, I just briefly looked at it. This is a fantastic program you're attending. I hope you're not paying anything for it. But this is a great program. I wish there will be more similar programs, and not today, but in the future ones. I would love to attend these also. My organization is working with the industry. I have between 3,000 and 4,000 clients in 70 countries. And we offer certification. So if we make the products halal for Muslim markets or anybody who wants to eat it, we call it halal for all. We normally don't think how deeply we are involved. USA supplies products all over the world. And this morning, USDA, I had a meeting, they were talking about how many products Korea, a small country, is buying from USA. They were saying in soybeans that they are number 3, in oil they are number 2, and similarly, USA is the bread basket, bread and oil basket for the whole world, okay? And my organization certifies about 2,500 production plants in this country. That means at least 10% the workforce in USA is supported by my organization. And normally people don't know who IFANCA is, who Islamic Food Council is. We are visible, just like when you see on the laptop, they say Intel inside, and most of the products you see out on the markets, it's IFANCA inside. So beside the certification, we have this center. We also have another similar center in downtown, right next to Metropolitan Correctional Community. And program we have there is a museum for the faith of Abrahamic faiths, starting from Adam to Muhammad. There are depictions of physical and electronic. We want people to visit this center, that center, get to know us. We want to be as much part of the community as anybody. Although I born in India, grew up in Pakistan, I adopted this country. And I and my organization is fully contributing it to as much as we can. I started the company with one person. Now we have about 80, 90 people working for us. And we visit all around the country, visiting the company. And again, that's a brief introduction. All the staff at Main Township and Cook County, I thank you very much. And this is a great gathering. I hope you enjoy it, learn from it. One last thing, how many attorneys are here? Okay, thank you for coming. You provide a great service to the community. Most of the time you charge a lot of fees, but sometimes not so much. I want to relate one story to what's happening here, especially this program. I had a friend who committed a minor crime. He was a local Caucasian American kid, high schooler, got into trouble, went to jail for 2 years. And he learned something over there and came back. He said, I'm going to do something for the community that I learn things are legal, but you don't need an attorney for that. And I'm going to help people with that. So he found out that what is required in Illinois to get a no contest divorce. So anybody say, we are getting divorced, say, I can help you, no cost to you, don't pay me anything. And the attorneys hated him, but he still does that work 30 years down. So this again is a great program. I hope you enjoy it, learn from it. More importantly, use it, okay? Because you have to use it when you're alive. Make the plan when you're alive. After that, somebody else is going to take care of. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. And again, I appreciate you letting us use this beautiful facility and for being such good neighbors. I would like to introduce, we have a couple of people here that are pretty renowned and that maybe you'll recognize, but I want to make mention of them. We have Illinois State Rep Marty Moylan is here. And I thank you for coming.
Thank you, guys. Keep up the good work. Listen, pray for Ukraine. We're all in. Everybody in. If you got to go get remember those old bullets and old guns you got in the basement, let's put them to use. We got to save Ukraine.
You're welcome, Representative. He comes in like a powerhouse, I know. Don't let him scare you. Also, I'd like to mention a couple other people that we have here, and they're from the township. And we have our supervisor here, Karen Diamond. And we also have our trustee from him here, Kimberly Jones. And I think that's about all I have this evening. And we have our main guest tonight, who's been very busy with what she does because she's wearing two hats with the job she's taken over at the clerk's office from coming with the recorder of deeds. So I appreciate her being here and showing up because I'm at outreaches and a lot of times the people that are sponsoring it are not there, but she is here. So I'd like to introduce our Cook County Clerk, Karen Yarbrough.
Good evening. Boy, is it great to see all of you today. Let me thank the assessor for the opportunity to be here and all the partners. The only way we can do this, the kind of work that we do in community, is that we have partnerships with whether it's the state reps, the assessors, or the elected officials are very, very helpful to us. So I am thankful, grateful, and blessed to have partnerships like the partnership we have here. Marty is going to get me one of those buttons. I don't have any, whatever he's talking about, guns, what's he talking about? But anyway, so in a former life, I served as a state representative in Springfield. I spent 12 years there. And then later I went on to become the recorder of deeds. And then after that, I became the clerk. So let me correct you. So 2 jobs, not even close. It's more like 5 or 6 jobs that I have, okay? But I love public service. I love connecting people. I love getting things done. I like working with people who like to do those kinds of things as well. So I think somebody took, yeah, I think somebody did. Oh, okay, but that's okay. I can stand up here and talk for the next however long, but I'm thrilled to be here. I live about 40 minutes from here, and I go all over the county to talk about what we do in the clerk's office. Tonight, though, we're going to be talking about something that's very near and dear to my heart because people are becoming victims as a result of property fraud. And oh, I know I can ask this question. How many of you are going to live forever? Oh, everybody's laughing. Are you kidding me? I am. Yeah, I'm just not going to live here. Okay. Remember that. Okay. So, we amass all this stuff during the course of our lives. And then at the end of our lives, and there is an end to our lives. And as much as we don't like to talk about that, the same way we brought it in the door, it needs to come out that same way, meaning you need to make plans. So we're going to talk about that as well. What I want to do right now is I have a Robin, pay attention. Robin Staggers is our outreach person. She does a tremendous job for Cook County. She does all of the background and the setups and the talk to people and all of those kinds of things. Robin's been, she was with the Recorder Deeds office for however many years. And then she came over to the clerk's office when I went to the clerk's office. And she, like I said, does a tremendous job. I want her to come right now so that she can give you some tips on what we should and should not do. Come on, Robin.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. She is the greatest boss ever. She's not a boss. She's a leader. So she is the best leader I have ever had in my working career. And I'm just grateful to be here and for the opportunity to work with her. So my name is Robin Staggers, and I am the Cook County Clerk's Deputy Clerk for Community Affairs. So I go all over Cook County and set up these events for the clerk to pitch all of her initiatives. So I want to go over a few things with you before the program actually gets started. I would like for you to please put your phones on silent. Susan was an example of that.
She did not.
So please put your cell phones on silent so that it does not interrupt the flow of the presentation. I don't know if all of you have been here before. The washrooms are out this exit door here and to your left. The women's is inside the coat room for some reason. And then the men's is a little bit past that, okay? So put your phones on mute. Washrooms are out the door, and you were given index cards when you came in. So you're gonna hear this again. You were given index cards when you came in. So during the question and answer period, we'll pick up those cards and take your questions, and we'll give them to our resident attorney, and she will answer all of your legal questions, okay? So any questions you have, jot them down on the index cards. Those of you who are via Zoom, please put your questions in the chat. Yep. In the chat, and we have online attorneys who will answer those questions. So thank you very much for being here and for your attention at this time.
Give it up for Robin. And because they never get acknowledged, I want all of my staff from the clerk's office to stand. They're all back there. And this is after work. They're over there as well. This is after work for them, okay? And they're here for you. So if you have any questions when you're leaving out, please stop by and ask those folks back there. We have some from elections and some from, we got people from everywhere, okay? So I think we're ready to get started. Hello and welcome. I'm Karen Yarbrough, your Cook County Clerk. Thank you for joining us for this presentation on property fraud and managing your property after death. The Cook County Clerk's Office is one of the largest consolidated clerk's offices in the entire nation. In addition to functioning as the chief election authority for suburban Cook County, we maintain birth, marriage, and death records, and we assist property owners in redeeming delinquent taxes. We also have a recording operations division that records and stores land records and other official documents, which includes deeds, transfer on death instruments, and real estate documents. Now, nobody wants to talk about death or end of life planning, but it's a critical issue when it comes to managing your assets to protect your family and your loved ones. And we all need to be aware of the threat of property fraud and how we can guard against this type of financial crime. At the Cook County Clerk's Office, we are here to serve, and we hope that this information you received today will be helpful on these important issues that impact all of our daily lives. Now, I'd like to introduce you to my trusty assistant who will guide us through this presentation.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Before we begin our discussion, we want to let you know that we will have volunteer attorneys available at the end of the presentation who can answer your questions about the topics we will be covering. If you are joining our program via Zoom and have questions that come up during the presentation, simply type your question in the Q&A section through your Zoom link and the attorneys will respond accordingly. Now, let's begin our discussion by talking about property fraud, which can also be known as deed fraud. So, what exactly is property fraud? Property fraud is the fraudulent and illegal recording of a document against your home's property records. We call it paper terrorism, and it's a very real problem and potential risk for all property owners. How can this happen? Almost every state has an open and public recording system, meaning that you cannot freeze your chain of title like you can your credit report. Plus, county recorders are not authorized by law to validate legal claims made in documents. Property fraud can involve the recording or filing of false or forged transfers of ownership, quitclaim deeds, or the filing of a bogus lien to steal property or harass an unsuspecting property owner. Even if your home is paid off, that does not stop someone from filing a new deed on top of it without the property owner's knowledge. Let's look at this NBC5 investigative report that takes a close look at how property fraud can occur.
By law, it is a line anyone can stand in and a fee anyone can pay. $40 is all it takes to get a deed or other document officially recorded in Cook County, a simple perk of open government openly abused by serious scammers.
I think they call them, financial parasites.
She was new to her office as recorder of deeds when Karen Yarbrough says she first spotted the trouble.
To steal a home, all you have to do is doctor some paperwork up and Photoshop it, bring it to the recorder's office, record it, voila, you own a home.
Con artists exploiting a system that relies on the honesty of those who use it, recording forged documents in order to steal a home outright. Sound far-fetched?
This is a kind of crime that I never imagined that could happen.
It did to Chicago Treasurer Stephanie Neely until it happened to her.
I get this call, I'm like, what do you mean someone has changed the name on my deed? What do you mean? How did they do that?
In her case, a stranger recorded a fraudulent deed, waited until she was at work, and then changed the lock.
They want to physically be in your house, because once they're there, it's very difficult to get them out.
Precisely what happened to this Chicago woman.
This individual had paperwork that was Xerox that showed the deed was in his name.
She asked us to conceal her identity because
You're in constant fear that they will try something next, because believe it or not, they did come back 3 days later.
one man connected to her case was arrested and convicted. As the recorder's office continued to field fake documents,
I decided that I couldn't sit idly by and watch this happen.
Yarbrough brought in this man,
They believe that the government created artificial duplicates of all of us.
an expert on sovereign citizens, the extreme anti-government movement often behind this crime.
They believe they can completely ignore our government and do whatever they want to do with impunity.
Pitcavage calls it paper terrorism and teaches the red flags, like the punctuation sovereigns add in the middle of names, the refusal to use mainstream addresses or zip codes, and how they employ lengthy, arcane terms. The flurry of documents they file may be fake, but their threat is real.
They're bullies. They're brazen. They think that nothing can touch them.
A lot of times they'll come in and overwhelm our frontline staff. It may be 20 of them will come in.
Yarbrough has a catchy comparison she uses to get a non-believer's attention. In Illinois, it is easier to steal a home than it is to steal a car.
It's fraud and, they're taking people's homes.
So there is now a simple way for some homeowners to protect themselves, the free property fraud alert system. You load your property index number, then you get an alert if any document is recorded in connection with your property. Counties across the country are now turning to this kind of system as these cases of mortgage and property fraud continue to grow. Lisa Parker, NBC5, investigates.
To combat this problem, Clerk Yarbrough created a property fraud unit with investigators and caseworkers who respond to and investigate any complaints of property fraud. The clerk's office also offers a free property fraud alert that will provide a telephone call or email to the property owner anytime a document is recorded against their property or the property of a loved one. There are 3 easy ways to sign up for the clerk's free property fraud alert. You may sign up in person at the clerk's office, you can sign up online, or you can sign up with a telephone call. Once registered, if you receive an alert or have a reason to be concerned about property fraud, you can contact the clerk's property fraud unit and our staff can help research the problem and coordinate a response. Call 312-603-4000 or visit our website at cookcountyclerk.com/property fraud. On a related note, while we're on the topic of your chain of title and fraud, property owners often need to obtain an official copy of their property deed when purchasing a home or for tax purposes. You should be aware there is a predatory practice aimed at homeowners in which companies offer a copy of your property's deed at a large markup price, sometimes exceeding $200. The clerk's office wants to remind you that we offer the same service starting at just $6. So there's no reason to pay exorbitant prices to gain access to these essential documents. Now, let's move on to the second part of our program, which is making plans to manage your property and assets in the event of your death. As Clerk Yarbrough noted, no one wants to talk about death or end-of-life planning, but it's critical to manage your assets to protect your family and loved ones. Having a sound end-of-life plan is one of the greatest gifts that you can provide to your children and family members. Consider this. What do you think these 3 legendary individuals have in common? Prince, Aretha Franklin,
87 years ago, our fathers,
and Abraham Lincoln. Actually, they have something very unfortunate in common. They failed to make plans for their assets upon their death. No will, no trust, and no plan. Now, let's consider someone who thought he had it right. Music legend James Brown, the Godfather of soul. When he passed away in 2006, Brown's estate was worth an estimated $90 million. When he died, Brown left behind a plan for most of his estate to pay for scholarships for children in need in South Carolina, the state where he was born. But that will was challenged by family members after his death, resulting in more than 12 lawsuits. It took more than a decade of litigation before Mr. Brown's assets were designated as he had intended. So how do you get it right when it comes to your property after death? The best advice is to consult an attorney or estate planning professional to provide you with advice for your specific circumstances. But you should also know that under Illinois law, you can transfer your home, your car, or your bank account to a loved one without a will or a trust, and without having to pay any fees or court costs. Here are the details on how to transfer your property. First, a transfer on death instrument. The clerk's office has a free document on our website known as a transfer on death instrument. We call it a TODI. You can also obtain this document at no cost from any attorney or legal aid organization. The form should be completed and notarized and then recorded at the clerk's office in our Recording Operations Division. The transfer on death instrument will then be recorded on your property's chain of title, and, upon your death, the person designated to receive your property can do so after completing the required forms. Please note that the clerk's office cannot assist you in the preparation of a transfer on death instrument or any legal document. We do not provide legal advice to customers. Next, let's discuss a payable on death instrument. You can transfer the funds from your local bank account in a similar way. Utilizing a tool known as Payable on Death Instrument, a person can transfer assets in a bank account to the beneficiary of their choosing after death. A Payable on Death Instrument can be obtained and used at most financial institutions for checking and savings accounts, as well as certificates of deposits, CDs, money markets, and savings bonds. Even if you have completed a payable on death instrument, the account holder has full control of their funds in the account until the time of their death. When the account holder passes, the beneficiary can claim specified assets directly from the financial institution without having to wait for probate court proceedings. Finally, let's discuss a beneficiary affidavit. There is also a mechanism to transfer your car to a designated beneficiary. A vehicle owner may change, add, or remove a beneficiary on the title of their car by completing a free beneficiary affidavit through the Illinois Secretary of State's office. To obtain this beneficiary affidavit, go to the Illinois Secretary of State website at www.ilsos.gov. Keep in mind that if money is still owed on your home or vehicle at the time of your death, your beneficiary will be responsible for the mortgage and payments moving forward. On behalf of Clerk Karen Yarbrough, we hope that you have found this presentation useful. The clerk's office is your first line of defense against property fraud, so we hope that you will take this opportunity to sign up for our free property fraud alert if you have not already done so. Managing your property and your assets in the event of your death is also critical to protecting your family and your assets, and to ensure that your wishes are carried out after your death. A copy of this presentation is available on the clerk's website if you would like to review it again or share with a friend or family member. Please visit www.cookcountyclerk.com/PAD resources to review the presentation. Now let's ask the volunteer attorneys who are joining us to introduce themselves, and we will open up our presentation for your questions.
Okay, I want to bring one of our, we have actually, I think, 3 attorneys, 2 that are online, and we have Monica Gamble here with us. Is that correct? We have 3. Monica K. Yeah. And so I'm gonna go there, and I'll field the questions from there, and you can field the questions from here. Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Okay. Do you have the cards? Have you collected cards?
If you have your questions on your cards, can you pass them down your aisle to our staff?
So tell me, did you learn anything today? Oh, I know what you learned, that James Brown didn't have his act together, right? Okay. He could give a good act, but he really did think he was doing the right thing by, the will, the this, the that, the other. But then you have these things called children, right? And anyway, any other? Okay, Monica, why don't I let you go ahead and you can start here, and then we'll just alternate, okay?
Okay. Hello, everybody. I am MK Gamble. I do go by MK Gamble for short. Give you a quick synopsis of my kind of background, considering I have a baby face. I actually was one of the staff attorneys for the Illinois House of Representatives and staffed the Housing Division. I was on staff when this legislation was actually written. And when Marty joined the Illinois legislature, I helped staff him as well. Coupled with, I've been the senior policy advisor and helped creating Illinois' Airbnb laws, so the housing laws for the state of Illinois, close dozens of residential and commercial properties, and do a number of probate matters currently. So that gives you some context. So thank you again, everybody, for attending, and I will begin answering questions as they come up. Excuse me. This is an interesting one. And I might need to rely on the clerk's office actually for this one. Can I transfer my property to a person who is a citizen of a foreign country? If so, does this person need to have a US Social Security number for this one? So it depends, is always a great answer. Come on up. Do you want to say? Yeah. One thing you want to think about this though is I've done international and foreign probate. I've done it from Germany, I've done it for Mexico, and I've done it for Puerto Rico, which is a US territory, as we're aware, right? There are considerations you need to think about. If you were to have to do a probate of a property in Illinois, you run into the issue of situs is the law, meaning the law of the land in which property is located governs. Okay. If you transfer this property to somebody in a foreign country, you run into an issue that I dealt with a woman who is actually Pakistani about 7 years ago, was over here with her husband. Husband handled a number of properties. They had a couple dozen properties here. Traditional family, husband handled the properties, wife did not, husband passes away. Imagine managing a property out of a different state in Cook County, let alone another country. The issues you are going to run into: shoveling laws, vacant property laws, securing a building, cutting grass. This unfortunate individual found out when she retained me, she had close to 6 figures in fines on properties she didn't even know she had. So if you transfer this property to an individual, one, you need to let them know. And you need somebody here on site who can answer violations, codes, and questions, because building court is a difficult entity to manage, especially as an individual. Now, let's say you put in an LLC for a number of reasons, then you cannot appear to represent yourself in building court. You need an attorney, which may not be what was intended for that. So while I say it does depend, it depends on if this person, there are a number of factors to consider with this. I would not suggest using a transfer on death instrument to leave a property to someone in a foreign nation. I would just suggest you want someone local who can manage the property, because you miss tax bills and a number of fines, that property can be sold and you will lose that property to the county, if that makes sense.
Okay, there's a question in the chat from Stan Adams. Doesn't Illinois title insurance cover your title? That's what you paid them for when you purchased the property, right? So Attorney Hammer says title insurance is purchased during the sale of a property. Title insurance protects lenders and home buyers from defects in title. Once you own the property, somebody can still file a fraudulent deed transferring the property to someone else's name illegally. Hope that answers your question, Stan. There's another question about how to sign up for the fraud alert online. Is there a link you can share? And the link is at cookcountyclerkil.gov. You click on recordings, then click on property fraud unit. All you need is your name, your PIN number, email or phone, and you can either be contacted by email or phone or both. The website is cookcountyil.gov. So when you come to that site, you'll see all those jobs I have. You'll see all of those. And then you'll see property fraud unit. Click on property fraud unit, and then it will guide you through the process of your name, your PIN, your email address, and phone. Okay.
If you have a living trust, do you need a transfer? I assume it's transfer on death instrument is the question. If you have a living trust and it captured and your property is deeded into the trust, meaning it's not in Jane Doe, but it's in the revocable trust of Jane Doe, then you would not need a transfer on death instrument. The living trust will transfer that property. If you have a trust and that trust is not actually does not have the property actually recorded in it, then it may be funded another way, then it will not transfer through the trust. If that makes sense. There's another one I saw here. Is there a will, is a will written 10 to 20 years ago still enforceable today? And are there requirements to update at any time? With updating your estate plan, there are certain rules that we live by. The first being, if your will from 10 to 20 years ago still names the correct executor that you want, and everybody else listed in there is still alive, there's no reason to update it. You can, if you would like, but it's not necessary. However, if anything needs to change, you want to be sure to update that will. If any of you have heard me speak before, you've heard the story about the one attorney who contacted us outside of St. Louis. Sister died living on Michigan Avenue in a penthouse suite, a little bit of a hoarder, older woman. Her will listed a boyfriend from over 40 years ago. Now she passes away and she had just reconnected with that gentleman months before. Was it her intention? Now she had amassed significant wealth to leave that penthouse and all of her wealth to the boyfriend that she reconnected with. And when I say months, I mean like 2 to 3 months. This gentleman, fortunately, was a kind-hearted soul and figured that was not her intent and was willing to work with her family to help transfer assets to her family, which was that her intent or not, we're not sure, but the question was, and the siblings were all attorneys, so this also could have been a hotly contested issue. But you only need to really update those documents if there's a major, so we say major life events, birth, death, divorce, remarriage, things of that nature. If it accurately reflects what you want, you don't need to waste the money. You don't. But keep in mind, if it's a will and you own a property, that means you're going to probate. So you're going to pay retainer, or not you, but your heirs will pay a retainer to an attorney to have that property probated, which just means to have the judge transfer that asset to the people intended in your will. The transfer on death instrument, a trust, are all tools to remove the property out of what would be considered your probatable estate, and to allow you to transfer that asset without having to spend the money of going through probate, which can, on the low end, cost about $5,000 if it's simple and easy, but there's about $1,000 in court fees that don't go to the attorney. It's just filing fees, notice fees that have to be out there. To the higher end, I was in a will contest that was upwards of $30,000 when the families ran out of money and asked that I step down, and they, right before a major hearing, and they lost everything. And I was like, hey, I think $100 for a court reporter might make a big difference here. But they had spent $30,000, so it's something to consider. So if you have a will, the will does not need to be updated if it properly articulates what you want. If you have a will and you still have a piece of property, real estate, use this transfer on death instrument to transfer the property, for really just a recording fee. Because the documents are fully free. Some attorneys charge preparation fees, but a couple $100. So yeah, this is a way to go if you have a will. There's
a question in the chat. I think this is on, yes, okay. My mother had a reverse mortgage on her house. I notified them of her death 2 years ago. I've not had communication since. What happens next? Attorney Hammer's answer is the mortgage company will probably take over the property because they're the ones that have it. I don't know why this went away. Where did it go? Because I haven't seen this question before. The mortgage company should take ownership of the property. Probably contact the mortgage company to get some understanding of the next steps. As long as you notified them of the death, presented a death certificate, the mortgage company should take it from there.
Does the TOTI document avoid probate? Yes. The second half, can more than one person be named to receive the property? Yes. More importantly than just naming the first set of people that should receive this, you want to go, if you look on here, you have your beneficiaries and there's spots for up to 4 people. You'll also notice there's contingent beneficiaries. Some people try to skip that step. Incredibly important that you fulfill every part of this document. Imagine you leave this to one person, that individual passes away. And this kind of ties into another property question that's up here. And there's no one to leave this to at that point, because you didn't designate what happens as a backup for that individual. And then to get that property properly transferred out of the name of the next person, you're looking at probate, and you're actually looking realistically at double probate, if the person, depending on who passes at what time. And I've had to do a double probate to get a property, which the family thought was in mom's name, but it was actually in dad's name. Mom died first. I'm sorry, dad died first, then mom died. And so the statute that exists outlines exactly who's going to inherit. It's already outlined, even if you don't designate who's going to inherit your assets. So it is important that if you want to designate who inherits your assets, you, excuse me, are either fill out the transfer and death instrument or have something in place. Otherwise, you'll just be kind of, well, not you, because you'll have passed, but your family will be bound by what the statutes say in the respective state that the property is located. So even if you're here and your property's somewhere else, it's where that property is located, and that's what matters most.
Okay, we have a question from Susan. How can you verify that no one has fraudulently taken your property? Attorney Trend says, you can review your chain of title, and your chain of title is documents recording against your property for free at COOK County Clerk il.gov. Again, COOK County Clerk il.gov. On recordings, you click recordings, then search recordings. Next, you'll click on 2020 search site. Now, does everyone know what your PIN is? Your property index number. I'm sure you get a tax bill, right? By the way, did you like your tax bill? You did? Nobody? No? Oh, you got to pay your taxes, right? You have to like it, right? Okay, so anyway, your PIN is your property index number. You can review your chain of title, and you can review those documents on your chain of title for free. So if anybody's telling you, well, if you give us $100, we'll show you whatever. There's so many instances where government has provided, constituents with free information that you don't have to pay for. But if you get something in the mail telling you, send us $99 and we will send you a copy of your chain of title, you should shred that, put it in the garbage, okay? Because you can get this information for free. So it says, type in your PIN, review your chain of title, and you can look at all of the documents that are on your chain of title. If you see something that doesn't look right to you, like somebody else's name there, and we've seen this in the fraud department lots of times. When a person has gotten a fraud alert, they call the fraud department, and instead of their name, Mr. John Jones, there's your name there, Susan? Your name is there. Well, that's not right, is it? No, it's not. But anyway, so you can see this information. I mean, those of you who have cell phones right now, I mean, you could go to the website right now. You could do what I just told you to do and go to our site and click on the links, and you can bring up your own chain of title right here and now. You can do that. COOK County Clerk il.gov. I know it's a long title, but it is what it is. COOK County Clerk il.gov. And if you see something amiss, there's a phone number you can call the fraud office, and that is at 312-603-4000. Now, we get these calls all the time. Sometimes it could be just a situation where maybe you've refinanced your loan, okay? If you've refinanced your mortgage and you've gotten a new mortgage or anything, you're gonna get a call from us, or you're gonna get an email because something changed. There's something new on your chain of title. Monica?
What is the difference between a will and a trust? And so let me start there. Then it says, do I need both? This is a very important question. People often use them interchangeably, and they are not. Very, very different. A will is simply instructions to a judge on what to do with your assets. That is the simplest way to remember the difference. A trust is similar to, I usually bring like a box. Imagine this water bottle. I put things in it. Okay? I put my house in this water bottle, put my bank accounts in this water bottle, my car, whatever assets they're in here. Now, because it's all in one central location, I am designating beneficiaries who will take my water bottle with everything in it upon my death. There's no judge. The directions are clear. It is not recorded. It stays between you, and you should tell who you want to be your executor or someone else what the documents say and where to find the document. There is a presumption that if there is no will found, because it's in a safe deposit box in a bank you never told anybody about, that you didn't have a will or that you didn't have a trust. So it is imperative that you tell the people, even if it's not the people who are going to inherit, your executor, where to find your important documents. Two other things to think about. My mother and grandfather called me today. They wanted to know about an attorney I sent them both to work with, instead of their current attorney. Their attorney's older than they are. What happens when they die? What if it's a small practice? Where are your documents? What if they don't believe in a digital drive that's backed up? Cyber drives, hacking has happened to every government agency in every state to some degree. It is important that you not only tell somebody that you have a plan and where to find it, but also share, if you used a professional, which I suggest instead of some of the do-it-yourself tools, who that professional was so you can go to that individual and look. That is important. I have 7 different clients I've inherited from because their attorneys passed away. It's something to think about. It can be unnerving. I got it. You get somebody younger. Do they know what they're doing, et cetera? But having to convince my mother, who is a prominent world-renowned physician, the importance of having an attorney who can help her with certain aspects of what she wants to do and understanding I cannot because I'm an heir, and it's undue influence and a number of other things for that. So something just to consider. Go ahead, Karen.
Here's a question from Patricia. Is it free to file a transfer on death instrument? And attorney Trent says a transfer on death instrument costs a flat $50 to record.
The second part of my last question, do I need both a will and a trust? It depends on what you're conveying and what's a plan. If you own a piece of property, which most people own, not everyone. I have several clients that are older in age and have moved into apartment complexes because they didn't want to deal with a number of things, but they still have some of the protections and all of that. If you have a will and you want to stay with the will, you have a piece of property, do a transfer and death instrument. You can do a trust. It is a great tool. Trust is comprehensive and allows for things such as what we call it's the long arm of the grave. So if you have grandchildren and you want to make sure that their education is paid for a number of years, something that is not an immediate inheritance upon your death, you would need a trust for those type instructions. Most people don't have that or don't want that necessarily. They want their heirs to take immediately upon death. And if that is your goal, then you would not need a trust. If it is your goal to give very specific directions, including rules about how your house is used, how long you'll stay in your house, the number of years you want to stay there, until what competency point, et cetera, that's when you need something much more complex like the trust, and a will not suffice.
And Latanya asked, how do you get a copy of your deed? And how do you remove a deceased spouse from your deed? Attorney Hammer answers, you can get a copy of your deed from the clerk's office. You can search online to obtain an unofficial copy, but can also get a certified copy. If you are listed on the title of the deed as husband and wife or joint tenants with right of survivorship, the surviving spouse should be able to file an affidavit of survivorship identifying you as the surviving spouse. Death certificate of the deceased spouse would then remove the deceased spouse from the deed.
What does joint tenancy with right of, joint tenants? Okay, this question I'm going to clear up because these are two different things that are, there's joint tenants, there's three types of tenancy you can have. Joint tenants with right of survivorship, tenants in common, tenants by the entirety. The difference between those is significant. Tenants in the entirety is a special tenancy only shared by married couples that provides special protections against debt and claims. Me and my brother could not have that. That makes sense. Joint tenants with right of survivorship. Who do you want to end up with that property when there are two owners? Only one will ultimately be the final heir, if that makes sense. And their plan for that property is what will prevail down the road. So let's say it's me and my brother. I'm older, I passed before my brother's still alive. Then it would become his property. And after he passes, it would pass through his family plan. My family would, even though we're related, my children and my husband would not be included in that. Tenants in common is very common among people who are friends or co-heirs. I mean, not heirs, sorry, co-owners. What that means is, sir, you and I own a piece of property. I pass away first. My heirs now co-own the property with you, my designated individuals. When you pass, your designated individuals or heirs will own with my heirs. And two family lines or more can continue owning a property for a number of years or generations along that line. So it depends. Do you want the property to ultimately end up in one family, in essence, or do you want it to be two families to continually own? Now, no one's forced to own property together. There are rules and litigations you can do to move beyond that, but that is the best explanation. So tenants by the entirety, married couple protection. Joint tenants, right of survivorship. Last man standing. Tenants by the entirety, co-owners, even after you pass, unless you designate the same person to inherit. Does that make sense?
I want to swift ask, what is required to sign a transfer on death instrument? And Attorney Trent says the Cook County Clerk's Office employees will check a TOTI document for the basic recording requirements. For example, we'll check a document for the owner's name, beneficiary's name, PIN, address of the property, legal descriptions, prepares name and address, mailed to name and address, two witnesses' signatures, and there are notarizations. You should contact an attorney regarding your particular circumstance.
What is the difference between trust, living trust, and will? So we went over kind of a trust and a will. Living trust, in essence, it's what people are referring to generally when they say trust. However, something that's very popular in Illinois and Chicago is a land trust that is very different. Unlike my bottle of water, which has my house, my car, my assets, my stocks, etc., a land trust only has your land with the designation of who will take that land and nothing else. Does that make sense? Then it says, what is the least expensive during time of disbursement? That depends because it depends, one, on your wealth, your utilization, and a number of other factors. Usually, if you're looking at not disbursement, but creation, out of these three, it's going to be a land trust. It's probably the cheapest, but you pay an annual amount, usually to Chicago Title, Land and Trust. You'll pay an annual amount to them. They'll maintain that land trust for you. When it comes time to disbursement, it's generally just transfers out as stated. You can switch in and out beneficiaries on that. So I would assume if I had to just pick one, it would be the land trust, but you can run into issues. And we have a actual consultation next week with a family of, I think 16, and a lot of deceased heirs. And how does that transfer? Because the family put a land trust on one piece of property. So something to consider. go somewhere, I have plenty of these. Since the clerk needs to record my toady, will they also notarize the form? If not, then who? So this is very important. When you look at this document, it asks for witnesses and a notarization, okay? People who cannot sign this are people who are related to you. People who cannot notarize this are people who are related to you. That would be a huge problem. You want your witnesses, even though it's awkward, to be someone not related to you, not someone, I mean, it could be someone you're gonna leave a large amount of money to, but imagine how it appears to someone not listed who thinks they're entitled to your property. The child who might have been cut out for a number of reasons, a brother who you haven't talked to in 4 or 5 years, okay? So legally, those individuals related to you cannot sign or notarize this. That would call into question the document and undue influence a number of things, but you can take it to anybody that can notarize a document, most attorneys, bankers. There are some of the currency exchange. I've had clients tell me they were unable to do it at the currency exchange. And there are some notary services that will do it. Who cannot do it, and I do not recommend, is I think it's notary.com. There's a $25 service fee. They do it by video and all of that. As Illinois is starting to adopt or not adopt some of these digital approaches, you want this to be done in person, eyes on the individual, because for an estate document to be signed and executed, the rules, and there are case law behind this, are very strict. You don't leave that room, you don't go to the bathroom, no one enters, you don't answer the phone. There are a lot of hard and fast rules, especially that attorneys follow for this. Don't jeopardize the quality of the signatures or the witnessing of the notaries on here. So that's not a way to cut corners.
I have a question. Where can you get a transfer on death instrument form? Do you all have an office in Markham, Illinois? We absolutely do have an office in Markham. You can find a blank form at www.cookcountyclerk.il/recordings/forms-recording. Boy, is that a lot. If you go to the site, you'll find it. Okay, it's on the forms tab. You'll find it. But remember that you may want to speak with an attorney regarding your particular situation. Now, I can tell you that if Kang Trin was here today, he would probably want to tell everybody in this room, look, you can get the form and the form is free. Do not fill out that form yourself. He would tell you that. Now, he's an attorney and we don't give legal advice, and I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice either, right? But don't fill that form out, because let me tell you what has happened. Because we can't give legal advice, some people have filled it out incorrectly, and guess what happens? I don't want to think about what happens. All I know is that it has happened. So have an attorney to look at the form. Don't try to fill it out yourself. Now, it is easy to fill out and all of that. No, there's no question about that. But I think Monica Kay is, and she's an attorney. She's not your attorney, but she's an attorney. Is maybe she got your attention on this whole thing. This is serious business. And while, only me and one other person here are going to live forever. Well, it was only 2 of us, right? It was only 2 of us was going to live forever. But, if in fact you're serious about this, and I think most people are, generational wealth works if people do the right thing. So we're here now and we can do the right thing, and you can know what we're sharing with you today so that you can do the right thing. Cutting corners, I promise you, it's not the right thing to do. Now, one more thing, and I'm sure you have some other questions, but I need to interject this too. We do these workshops all over the county, and it's not something that the clerk's office necessarily just does. I'm passionate about making sure people get information so that they can actually be their best advocate. I love advocacy work in the work that I do. And if I can go out and I can share something with you that you can take forward from this place and do it, and it helps you in your life, that makes me happy. What makes me unhappy is I go to these things all the time and I ask the question, how many of you have been to one of these workshops before? Raise your hand. One person, two. Okay, so you've been before. Did you do anything? I'm sorry. Okay, she had surgery, so she couldn't do it. I hope everything's okay in terms of the surgery. But if you don't do anything, you can leave here tonight. We could have went to a party, had a good time tonight. We could have done that, right? Had some drinks and done whatever, right? But you're here, so I think you want the information that we're sharing with you. Do something. Do something. And if I see you again and you show up in another one of these things, you've done nothing, I don't know what I'm going to do. But please do something. Monica?
So to build on what she's saying about why you want someone to at least look this over, common mistakes people make. And it's actually one of the questions on here I was going to answer, but I think it's better to show the form. Question was, what is the document number? So you notice in Cook County, we have this lovely cutout. It's actually 3 by 5. That is because when you have your deed and every other document you've recorded, you take it into the recorder's office, it goes into a lovely machine, and they print relevant information on here that includes the date of recording and a timestamp. I actually had to run downtown last week to do this for somebody who was rushed into emergency surgery. She was worried about whether she would come out and wanted to make sure that this was ready for her children. As soon as you get it in there, it's valid. I literally was able to get this back. And even though I could not get it to the family before the surgery, I could email it to them. So they had a copy. So that's this corner here. But mistakes people often make, document number. It's gonna be printed up here, date, time, some other fees, that's on there. Legal description. A lot of times people think a legal description is 3 bedroom, 2 bath. That's nice, but that's not the legal description. It's, you ever see the surveyors out there with the little wheel or whatever? I'm just learning how to actually read these through some different CLEs I've seen, but it's literally where your property is on the earth. And it is very long and convoluted, and it breaks it down, and every number, every comma, every spelling literally matters. You're in Cook County, that's range 14, basically, can be 15 sometimes, but it's 14. All of these things truly matter. Addresses are convenient, but they're not necessarily right. And when developers put stuff up, I mean, I do a lot of real estate litigation and real estate law. My building is literally on the on the border of a zip code. If you ask me, from what I know, that's the wrong zip code we're all using. It absolutely is. 10 feet over, it's a different zip code, but they're saying that's right. So what if that becomes an issue 50 years down the road? They correct it, and meaning city, county, et cetera, there are corrections to buildings, as buildings are variances that put them condos to apartments, apartments to condos, a 3 flat to a single family home, right? All of these things can occur. So the legal description is very, very relevant. So you just want to make sure that this is done correctly. I mean, it's gonna, I don't know, cost you a little bit maybe to get it looked over, maybe a couple hundred, if that, or maybe $50. I don't know. It depends on what people charge, but your asset that you're conveying probably costs $100,000 or more, which is what puts you into probate and is requiring you to go through a probating system in Illinois if you don't have a trust or transfer on death instrument. So think about how you're spending that money. Does that make sense? Let's see, grab another one of these here. Currently have a property in a land trust document. What do I need to do to get it out? So it's probably with Chicago Land Trust and Chicago Title is what we call it for short. They have documents and forms on there. The easiest way to get it out is and work with them, because they will do it for, I don't think they charge you to have it removed out versus somebody else. There's forms to get it removed out. You can have it in your name, or you can move it directly to the toady. It's last in time with a recording. So if the land trust is recorded, and then you have a toady recorded, there could be some dispute about if it's still in the trust or not, if it was properly removed out. I think you should work with Chicago Title to get it out, start there, then put it here. Does that make sense?
Grab some more questions here. Can I change a toady? Absolutely. As many times as you need it. Absolutely. And that is important. Also, just because someone leaves that property to you, it's the actual case we're working on now. We just found out that a woman who is in her late 70s, her grandmother actually left her property and she never told her. Okay, we found out through fines. She's a government worker whose taxes were garnished because, and that's how we found out that she even owned this property. She thought somebody else owned it, cousin, yada, yada. If she doesn't want to claim the property, like to get it out of, so let's say it's a toady and I'm giving it to you, ma'am. If you don't want the property because I have weed violations, like the grass is what I'm talking about. So you have grass violations, fencing violations, all of those problems. You look at that and say, whoa, these violations over a number of years, tax debt, I don't want that. You don't have to take that property. And just because the city might say you owe these violations because you're next in line to inherit it, there's a lot of case law about that, and I've litigated that a few times. So your heir has to elect to take it, which is important. And you think, why would I not want it? Because property can be laden with debt. And you may not know that if you don't do a track search or some sort of entity search to figure out what is attached to this property. And it's not just property taxes. We're talking, I closed a deal this morning actually for a probate estate. So I sold a property this morning out of probate to somebody post foreclosure. So I had to get it out of foreclosure. It's out of probate and sell this property. I did all of that, which was labor intensive for this family, but you can choose to take a property or not take it, and you're not bound by the debt that's attached. And there was an issue where a junior and senior, and we ran title. Junior, who's died decades ago, had more tax liability than 3 times the value of this property. You have to clear that for clean and clear title, marketable title. So there's a lot of things that have to go with this. So, those just little hiccups there.
So one question we always get about how to find a lawyer. You can go to the chicagobar.org or the Illinois State Bar Association.org, or you can go to Legal Aid Chicago. And these are all on the website. And I can do the www if you'd like me to. Okay, so let's go. www.legal, L-E-G-A-L, aid, A-I-D, chicago.org. And they've got some income requirements there. I don't know what they are, but we like to give people at least 3, places where you can go to identify an attorney if you need an attorney to take care of this business. You have other questions?
Yes,
There?
we have.
Great, let's have them.
We want to bequeath money to our grandchildren for their educational fund. What is the best way to do it? What is a look-back period? And can you explain what a look-back period, how it works? So I was just talking to my mom about this literally on the drive up. It's 60 months, right? So you think, oh, I'm doing okay now, I'm not gonna worry about it. You got 60 months look back, right? So if you're going to a nursing home or some sort of care unit, they're looking 60 months, which is 5 years. And that matters. I've had someone make the mistake of, my father is passing, terminally ill with cancer. We're worried about selling this property and using it for his care, but we want this other, we want to have these funds, and it's 60 months. You need to, if you are healthy and able to come up with a plan, it's good to do. And the argument I had with my mother on the drive up here is, she's like, oh, I plan to be great in 5 years. And I said, that's wonderful. But what if you aren't? And she has recently purchased a very, very nice house. We have some, we have a Salvador Dali, we have some significant pieces of art. You need to have, and we do have a plan, but that plan needs to change. And that's kind of one of the discussions we're having. Now, how to leave that money to your grandchildren, it once again goes to, if you did use a actual living trust, revocable or irrevocable, you can create an allowance, you can create markers, you can create whatever you would like as trigger points for the money. If you simply want them to take money tomorrow and you want to have a fund set up for them, and you can have a trust that creates a trust. And And we do that. That's not that uncommon. You can even have trust for people who are on disability and have special needs. And by disability, I'm not just talking about an elderly individual. I'm talking about an autistic son, a daughter with Asperger's syndrome, someone in a wheelchair. There's a whole range of that. So there are tools that allow you to, it allows you to be more creative, basically. A trust will allow you. It's a tool to make you more creative.
Okay, I have a question. If the name spelling was incorrectly listed on the Cook County Clerk's recording page, how can I request correction? I just checked the website. The actual deed had the correct spellings. I'd like to prevent any further mistake in case. As long as the name is correct on the deed, you should be fine. Check with the clerk's office for any corrections that need to be done on their website.
And they have a form. They have a form online for that. The forms are pretty extensive and easy to do on this website. I'm actually impressed by that. It's easy to use and navigate, which is key because you need everybody to understand how to navigate the website, not just 18 or 20-year-olds. Your property is still mortgaged. What do you enter as a doc number? So I'm going to build on that question. Like I said, on your deed, and when you look online, it's going to give you a document number depending on the tool. It actually says doc number. So take that number and put it in here. That's what the document number would be. If you physically have your deed, it'll say it right on the top. It says, I think it says doc.no or no, hashtag is what it is, because I just recorded one. One thing that's great about the TOTI, it allows your heirs to inherit under your mortgage terms. It's like an assumption of mortgage. So if, let's say you're leaving your property to your 28-year-old son or 36-year-old son coming out of med school, $500,000 in debt, private universities, et cetera. You think they're going to qualify for that same great low mortgage rate that you did? Probably not. But this TOTI will allow them to inherit your terms of the mortgage and pay under your same terms, which is a huge benefit for a number of families.
Okay, Susan said, I did fill out the transfer on death instrument myself. I paid the fee and the county recorded it. How do I know if it's okay? Is it possible I did it wrong and my heirs will have trouble later? Everything's possible, of course. You can have it reviewed by an attorney to confirm it is done correctly.
And it's just, you just re-record it. You don't have to revoke the prior one. Let's say it was incorrectly completed. Whoever you work with, you just record it, you pay the $50 again, and then it's the last in time that matters. It's not the first one that whatever might have an error on it. Trust, can I add my grandchildren who are not yet born for educational purposes? There are terms in your estate planning documents that say now living, then living, et cetera. So that's key. There are ways to create funds for children that are not living, but it's not as clear as what you're thinking, which also takes me to LegalZoom, lawyers. I guess I shouldn't name a lot of sites, but these tools are created by lawyers. And the first thing it says at the bottom when you accept your cookies is you must consult a lawyer. I want you to think about that because every portion of a will or a trust, et cetera, every paragraph in there is meaningful and legally significant is very different than just what you think is relevant. That huge will contest we got into was a online tool where the person said, this doesn't apply to us, so we're not going to use it. She helped a sibling create it. He dies. He has quite a bit of children. There's a huge fight. And some of the language she took out was directional. And you may not understand the significance of the language that's in there, if that makes sense. So I'm not saying not to use them, but I want you to know we create tools to sell a package at times, right? You can do that for easy. You can do a do-it-yourself version of any and everything. I don't know. Well, I don't know if that's a tool you want to use, but I will say this, when you do use those tools, you notice there's also a pay extra to have attorney review that what you chose through the automated service is correct. And when I first started my own practice, my first 5 months, I made a lot of money correcting DIY documents that were modified because they did not understand the significance of it. So you don't have to spend a killing on attorneys either. Like, we have legal aid, you can price shop, you can do what you need to do. Like, it's significant, right? It's an investment, but be aware that there is legal significance to terms that are not commonly known to the individual, okay? So just something to think about.
Jennifer says, can you help in transferring ownership after death? My parents' house is in my mom's name. She passed in 2016 and would like the house in my dad's name. There is no will or trust. Attorney Hammer says, were both names on the property as husband and wife? So that's a question. If it were only in her name, you will have to go through probate in order to transfer the property. And I was wondering if you could very quickly talk about the process of probate.
Right. So probate is a process, like I said, the judge is allocating the assets that are left behind. The first part is the filing, and it's the most expensive filing fee that the court has. It's almost double any other litigation. So you start with that. Once you're filed, you have someone who is the petitioner, they're asking to be in charge of the assets. And it doesn't have to be a family member, it can be a friend who just wants to help. There's already a plan. So actually, which is interesting, based on what that woman has said, when her mom passed away, the plan right now is 50% to her husband, the girl's father, and 50% to the girl and any siblings they have. That's the state's plan that already exists for her. But it also does depend on the tenancy and how that property is set up. Once you're filed, you go through this process and fill out the proper paperwork. Someone is designated through letters of administration, which someone asked about on here, which is basically a document that says this person has the authority to act on behalf of the estate. A bond has been submitted in the event that they steal or pilfer from the estate that will, put money back into it for the heirs. There's a publication. You then have to publish in legal newspapers or some other things that will say, John Doe has passed away, and there are 6 months in which you have to wait for any creditors out there, credit card companies, ambulance service companies, cancer treatment centers, to say, hey, John Doe owed me this amount of money and it's unpaid, it's still to date. So they can raise a claim against these assets. Once your 6 months goes by, then you can start to wrap it up if you wanted. And if it's an easy, clean probate with very few heirs, no fighting. But it can take months, which is unusual, in a few cases, and it can take years. And you are paying a bond for every year that probate is opened. That has to be sustained unless the will says that no bond is there, which makes a lot of sense. But what happens when you don't put a bond on an estate and the individual you left in charge didn't give assets to your children? They stole it all, especially the luxury cars, which is something I've seen done. So something to think about too. Then it can eventually be wrapped up.
I was just wondering, what's the average cost for probate? Just some number.
I mean, very simple probate, I'm gonna say 5,000 to 10,000. And that is like one heir, no debt. And it depends on your attorney's retainers, but keep in mind, those fees and 3 things I told you had to do up front, that's almost $1,000 out of pocket that has been paid, none of which have gone to attorney fees. Those are court fees, publication fees. Those are all fees that are not even related to the actual filing. I mean, well, they're related to the filing, but the actual administration of the process.
A question here. What happens if my mother purchased a home with 2 of my siblings? Upon her passing, are me and my other siblings entitled to the property as well?
No. I'm sorry. Let's take
You want to answer it? You can answer it.
No. She, in essence, created a state plan that says that these are the people I expect to inherit my property.
Oops.
It can be, but it depends. And I'm not to undercut any other attorney, but you said who inherits, right?
Yep.
And you purposely didn't list certain people?
Yep.
How will that be interpreted? I've seen it interpreted in a way that the judges said no. She was very explicit about who was going to take this property. Something to think about, but it does depend. It does depend on how it's deeded, really. So when I say title, I mean deeded. Should I continue? Another thing with that is your will or trust, and let me know if we're running long on time. When you want to explicitly disinherit somebody, it is very important to properly disinherit individuals. And then who you consider to be your children. Are they stepchildren? Are they biological children? Are they adopted children? All of these things matter. Are these people that you may not have adopted and might have been a foster child you took care of, or a family friend? You know, you see some of the worst fights when people pass away because they're grieving and there's money on the line. And especially if a mortgage is due immediately after, people are trying to scramble to get payment to stay that, to not lose that property, not enter foreclosure, et cetera.
So it looks like we have 2 minutes. I think is there a burning question in this room? Burning, gotta know, not leaving here until somebody answers my question. Burning.
There you go.
Okay. Wait, we're gonna give you a microphone. Everybody wants to hear this.
I had listed it, but I would be happy to ask. Let's say I created my trust and I put my property to a child, and then I fill out the toady. Who gets precedence?
Oh, how is it administrated, right? It depends on what type of trust. Is it a living trust or it's okay? Then it's less in time. So in essence, if you have your will, just like how I said, if you have your will and you file this toady, it'll take it out of the estate. This does the same. So it takes it out of the trust upon your death. Okay. So if you want that, you can do it that way. You also, when you create an estate plan, a will or trust, you can do an amendment to, and that's, you don't start from scratch. You can, but let me, in case no attorney's ever told you this, you can do an amendment. First Amendment, Second Amendment. We've had to do like 9 amendments for somebody. I was like, I think it's time we do a new one at this point. But you're allowed to amend that, and it's not the whole cost and the whole process. But yes.
1 minute left. Burning. Okay, burning question over there. Burning. Gotta know today.
Other friends in different counties.
Okay.
And they say, well, I've never heard of this before. Do the other counties offer this, like Cook County?
This is a state law.
Okay.
This is Illinois.
All right.
Are they in Illinois?
Yes.
It applies.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Here, burning.
It also,
Gotta know.
in about 32
I
places.
had signed up for a program with you guys about 20 years ago. Is it that same program where if someone files a lien against one of my properties, a phone number calls me and lets me know that a lien has been filed against me?
Okay, I don't know what happened 20 years ago. I wasn't there, but that program should have. I think it was. But have you gotten any notices from the office over the years? Have you made any changes? Okay, well, you contact me. Okay, we're going to sign you up today. Robin, would you please sign her up for a property fraud alert? Okay, see, we can do it right here and now. Last burning, I want somebody from over there. Somebody over here's got a burning question. They're like, nobody asked my question. There, here we go. Very simple.
Very simple. The clerk's office. The only way to do this is to go downtown.
No, ma'am. No, it's not the only way to do it. The closest office is in Skokie to you all. You can go there. How about it? Or you can do the www. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry. Well, witnesses, you'll have to get notarizing. You'll have to get that as well. You would bring the document into us and we would record it. But you can go to Skokie if you live in this area. Okay. But you can come downtown and see me. I'm downtown.
You can also do
Okay.
it by mail, $5 extra for recording.
Last burning question.
Is a will you have prepared when you live in another state still legally binding if you move into another state such as Illinois?
Did you hear?
Yeah, it's kind of reciprocity, so it should exist the same way. Is the property in the other state though?
Piece of land is in the other state and the home now is in this state.
So that's what I was talking about, which is important. This is common. So Illinois law governs Illinois' property, and the other state's property law is governed by that property. I think it's 32 states have transfer on death options. So look in your local county for where your property is located, see if they have it, grab their version and get it filed as well. And then that way, you know, both of them are still kind of taken care of if that's your goal, if that's your goal.
Okay. Hey, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Madam Assessor, for this wonderful group and all the questions you asked. Invite us back. Do something, do something, do something, do something.
Wait, we're not finished. We have 2 events coming up. We have another property after death event that we're gonna put on at Berwyn Township. So if you didn't get what you needed from here and you wanna hear the information again, you can come out again. It's Tuesday, May 3rd at the Berwyn YMCA. So we have flyers at our table, you can get them there. We're also doing an event for the clerk with the Arlington Heights Senior Center. Clerk is doing a comprehensive event there to share information about the Cook County Clerk's office, about the services that we provide, how we got to be under the Cook County Clerk from the Recorder of Deeds office. And we're gonna have a similar event to answer questions there. If you are interested or have an interest in getting information about having one of these events in your community, please give me a call. My name is Robin Staggers. I am the Deputy Clerk for Community Affairs, and my number is 312-603-3974. Anything else, Clerk?
Yeah, if it's just, yeah, if you add them, it is possible. So, but if you.
Okay.